Hey, sir. May I ask what you're filming? Especially because it's supposed to rain tomorrow. Cats and dogs. Did you just get into town, Mike? Yep.
Same with like squash.
Things. Oh, I think they use it for a number of sports. I was.
Enlighten us with. I'm Rob Newbold. I'm a Wharton 99 MBA, so here back from my 15-year reunion, and great to see a bunch of classmates and other folks here that I really look forward to spending some time with over the next couple of days. So let me start off, go right into the introduction. It's my great pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Faculty Director of the Penn Wharton Public Policy Initiative, Professor Mark Duggan. In addition to his role at Penn's Wharton Public Policy Initiative, Professor Duggan is the Wharton School's Rowan Family Foundation Professor and Chair of the Department of Business Economics and Public Policy. Professor Duggan is also a Research Associate at the National Bureau of Economic Research and co-editor at the American Economic Journal and at the Journal for Public Economic Policy. From 2009 to 2010, he served as Senior Economist for Healthcare Policy at the White House Council for Economic Advisors. He also has served on the Social Security Advisory Board's technical panel and is an advisory board member at the McKinsey Center for U.S. Health System Reform. Mark's primary research focuses on the effect of government expenditure programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. More recently, he has examined the contributions of market structure to the rise in health insurance premiums and the effect of physician financial incentives on the cost and quality of health care. Please join me in welcoming Professor Mark Duggan.
Thanks very much, Rob, for the introduction. Thanks to all of you for braving the weather. It looks a little tough getting in today, but I'm really delighted to be here. And with Rob's introduction, you may wonder, is that title right? So he's going to talk about energy policy, but his main areas of expertise are healthcare policy. And yes, that is true. And I like a challenge, and so it is. I've presented a number of times on healthcare policy, but I sense from looking at who was coming and sort of what's been happening with government policy that it might be fun to talk about energy policy specifically. But when we get to the end, I'd be happy to talk about Obamacare or the federal budget or anything else as well. So public policy in energy markets is what I'll be covering today. And it is sort of one example of the kind of area that in my department, the Business Economics and Public Policy Department, we're trying to sort of add to the Wharton arsenal of expertise. So I think over the last several years, and for years before that, there's a sense that the role of the government in the private sector is growing more and more important. And understanding the myriad ways in which federal policy and other government policies influence the incentives of firms and individuals is more and more important for business. And so that is part of the reason that the Penn Wharton Public Policy Initiative got started almost 2 years ago. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I go through my presentation today, trying to be basically a place where all of the expertise of faculty at Wharton and elsewhere at the University of Pennsylvania.
Members for the school for many years. Secondly, through mentorship. We not only see them as mentors to us who work at the school, but also we know of the mentorship that you provided so many, whether they are in the Wharton alumni network or outside of it. We just, your mentorship of people is something that's very, very visible to us. And thirdly, through philanthropy. Ann and John have supported the school for many, many years and allowed us and frankly empowered us to do things that we otherwise would not have been able to do. So as a great supporter of the Wharton School, Ann has extended herself not just through those ways that I've mentioned, but also through formal board relationships that have grown originally in the undergraduate advisory board, but now as a member of our board of overseers. And you can't talk about Ann now without recognizing her great passion for the study of leadership and the application of leadership principles. And so one of the great things that we're currently working with Ann on is her fantastic involvement with the Aspen Institute and joining that with the great efforts of the Wharton Leadership Program as that develops into a really defining aspect and element of the Wharton School experience. And so Ann is helping us leverage both the strength of both of these organizations to come together in ways that make a sum that's greater than the individual parts. Ann has a multi-generational connection to Penn, so as I mentioned, her late husband John is a classmate of hers. 2 brothers attended Penn, 3 children, and we're really happy to say that 2 of her nephews will begin the MBA program in the fall. So Ann and Tom, if you would come forward, we'd like to present you with the Alumni Award for Distinguished Service. Yes, sure. Congratulations, Ann. Thank you for all you do. Our next.
Okay, hi everyone. How are you all on this lovely, lovely day? What I'd like to do is to take you on just a little bit of a journey as to where Wharton's been and where we are, and a little bit of where we're going. I thought I would start with graduation last year. Obviously that's not this year's graduation because we do that in a couple of days. And we had moved it, starting a couple of years ago, inside the Palestra. After getting rained on a couple of times out in Franklin Field, we thought we've got to come up with a better solution. And it turns out the Palestra works really well because not only does it not rain, but the friends and relatives and so forth are closer to their loved ones who are being awarded degrees. So this is the start of it all. 133 years ago is the real start when Joseph Wharton founded the Wharton School. And as he founded the Wharton School, it was all about educating young men and women to have an impact on society. And I hope we continue that tradition in these 133 years, and that perhaps we've executed and we will continue to improve upon what we're trying to do. And so I'm going to, just for fun, show you half a dozen slides with a little bit of a journey, right? So I'm going to go back to Dietrich Hall. So that's not really so long ago, 133 years ago. And Dietrich Hall was built in 1949, 1950. And so this is the picture as, you know, Dietrich Hall is built. I love the cars, aren't you? The 30s or 40s or whatever. There's some other interesting things that are interesting about that. You'll notice that the door is open. And I'm like, where's the security? Did you have to worry about it in 1949, 1950? You'll also notice that, well, there aren't very many people around. I mean, if you walk around campus now, you know, a lot more people. I don't know why there's so few people. And they're mainly men, so that has changed. At the MBA level, we're 43, 44% women. You'll also notice that the windows are open because there wasn't any air conditioning. So that would be a real disadvantage. So that was Dietrich Hall. And this in 19... Huh? You like this? Yeah, you weren't there then. This is Skimmer Day, which they now call Hay Day. And so 1956, and maybe those styles will be back in soon, I don't know. And we move on, and again, I love the cars. This is just before we knocked down the bookstore and built Huntsman Hall. And so we have a lovely Cadillac. And what is that car behind the Cadillac? Oh, Plymouth? Okay, Plymouth. Okay. So that took us to 1968, and then we built Huntsman Hall, which we're in now, which is a magnificent building, especially on the inside. It's like a silo on a cornfield on the outside, but it has kind of one of the design boards on the outside, but inside, isn't it a fantastic building? So this is Huntsman Hall. More recently, we've added a west wing to Steinberg Dietrich Hall. And we were trying to imitate the Louvre in Paris, you know, or doesn't this look like the Apple box in front of the GM building?
Yeah.
And this has worked very well. We're able to get new classrooms and conference rooms and 35 new faculty offices. And then really great buildings in San Francisco. So our San Francisco campus, we have the 7th floor of Hills Brothers Plaza. We had moved from Folgers Plaza, right? Keep moving from coffee building to coffee building. This might be good news there. But it's right next to the Bay Bridge, and it's really a wonderful space. In fact, sometimes our faculty, when they go up to teach there, we have trouble getting them to come back to Philadelphia, which is a real problem. But we're right on the Embarcadero, and we have signage on the Embarcadero, and so we're building the brand name on the West Coast. Now, we're actually at a unique moment in time in some ways. We're #1 in U.S. news for undergraduate, executive MBA, and MBA, although we're tied with Harvard and Wharton for the MBA. It's not too bad to be tied with Harvard and Wharton, right? You know, we'll put up with that. But it's kind of a good moment. You know, we're #1 in all 3 programs. As some of you may know, I'm stepping down as dean at the end of this academic year. So it's a good time to get out. Because
Where do you go?
I don't think another ranking can come along for our degree programs before the end of June. I think the next ranking is Business Week in October. And there were some interesting complications with their survey. They were trying to sneak in some questions about MBAs and their, how much they drink and how much they have sex and so forth. And so I think we're refusing to participate. In fact, I think all of the major schools are refusing to participate, but business may decide to take the questions out. But at any rate, it is a good moment. As you sit here, you're definitely at the #1 school in the country, if you believe Business Week, right? So that's Business Week. But let's look ahead. it is interesting that we have to prepare our students for jobs in industries that do not yet exist, which is something we'll tell them at graduation in a couple of days. And so if you go back 25 years ago, I don't know, where did students go to work 25 years ago? I mean, a prestige job was being financed at Ford Motor Company. What else was a prestige job 25 years ago? To work at Sullivan or Consulting. And it's really only in the last 25 years, private equity is about 25 years old. And we now see the founders in their 60s or 70s in some cases, and that industry left to have a turnover at the top. Hedge funds, biotech, online, obviously online, renewable energy. You can read it, I'm not going to read it. And so you get into this really interesting question of how do you educate students for a world that you don't know what it looks like, right? What does the world of the future look like? So you have to be educating your students about innovation, about being willing to give up on fixed commitments, and being willing to not only give up on fixed commitments, but to champion moving in new directions. And that's really difficult for people, right? It's difficult for companies. So many companies have their core competencies. You know, everyone loves core competencies and focus. The downside of core competencies and focus is the core competencies can become totally irrelevant. Remember there were companies called Kodak, or Xerox, or General Motors, or, I know General Motors still exists at the moment.
Sears Roebuck,
Sears Roebuck, it still exists at the moment.
so to speak.
Right? One of our professors has written a book called Permanently Failing Organizations. Would you put Sears versus 1988? Robert, when did you graduate? 84. Oh, 84. Okay. So this is 88. So consulting is more important than it was in 88. And, you know, we don't totally mind that they go into consulting because they're usually there for 3 or 4 years and then they go into industry. Not necessarily, they may stay in consulting, but consulting is very often transitory, and sometimes our students view it as part of their ongoing education. You know, they went to a good undergraduate school, they went to a good MBA program, they go to a good consulting firm, and then they're in a position to go do other interesting things. Investment management, hedge funds, private equity, venture capital.
Somebody, I want to get your picture. It wasn't such a guy. Is that a picture? I'm disoriented. I recognize the face.
But the main thing was the,
He's got that face.
yeah.
We've all seen each other, and might even be over 50 years since we had our pictures taken back in 1962. For those who are going to the luncheon, we are going to give out little buttons with your picture on it from then. I saw Helen, and she said, I have them at my office to give out at that time at the luncheon. So some people won't get them, but I'll make sure, like Bob Killebrew, you're going to luncheon, I think, aren't you? Sure, yeah. So everybody that's going to luncheon will get it, but for those that did not go to the luncheon, like I know Harvey Gleaksman is not going to go. Harvey, raise your hand. We're going to beat her later. I'll mail him one. on so he can keep it.
We can pay for you, no problem.
The other thing, just for your information, we ended up with 20 people coming back for the reunion. The average is 10 for the 50th. So I was hoping we would break the record, we tied it. So if we can get one more person who's not here to come back and say class of 64 and register, we can get the 21st, but I'm not worrying about it. So enjoy your meal, and we'll look forward to seeing those who go to the luncheon. And then we have Davio's, and for those staying in club quarters, Davio's is right there with it. And it makes a nice, easy place to go to. So enjoy, and congratulations on your 50th.
To you for your effort.
Thank you.
You know, there is an active.
Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, We have a very sentimental song that is kind of our Glee Club anthem that we love to share with alumni on occasions such as this. It's called After Us. Before we sing our last song, I was chatting with one of the organizers who thought you might be interested to know that after a busy alumni graduation weekend, the Glee Club will, on Tuesday, be heading off to continue sharing our musical talents with people around the world. Actually, we're going to be traveling to the United Arab Emirates and to Qatar and to Tanzania, spending about 2 weeks over around the world, and very much looking forward to that. It's an early morning start to that Tuesday, about 6 a.m. to get to the plane, but it's going to be a very exciting time. And, so if any of you have ever been there before and want to share some tips before we go, we'll be all ears. We're looking forward to a really wonderful experience over there. Again, thanks so much for listening and for coming back to Penn. Great to see you all, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks so much. So now we will sing, hopefully all together, the Red and Blue.
Lift up your hearts and voices for the royal red and blue. Their Holland has a crimson, old yellow colors too. But for dear Pennsylvania, we wear the red and blue. Hurrah, hurrah, Pennsylvania, hurrah.
To celebrate all different classes at the Wharton School, and so your being here is a representative of many who probably couldn't make it, but we're glad to see you here, and we have a great program for you this afternoon. I want to mention to you that as Emeritus Society members, we see a lot of people this year with graduating classes in what we call the 4s and 9s, so it's based on this model of bringing people back every 5 years. But the great thing about being part of the Emeritus Society is that you can come back to all reunions. We really don't discriminate around class year. Once you're at this stage of alumni status, we just want you to come back every single year. So just know that you're always welcome, and we're honored to have your presence. Particularly because we know that you are among the best ambassadors for the school, because you have lifelong relationships with a lot of people. People who were either classmates of yours or friends and neighbors and colleagues at work who, while they didn't go to Wharton, became familiar with Wharton because of what you represented to them. And also you helped create that pipeline through your friends and family of people who follow you to Wharton, and we appreciate that very much. So the ambassador aspect of what you do is important to us. And obviously, the historical perspective as well. We had a Dean's Town Hall yesterday, and one of the questions that was asked of him was, do you teach business history? And you know, one of the things that, it's such an interesting question, it recognizes the importance of history. And when we talked to all of you about work, when you were in the prime of your career, which is now,
Not exactly.
like, you know, and how has things changed? It's important to have.
Thank you very, very much. Well, it's my privilege to be here this afternoon and to share just a few words with you as members of the Emeritus Society. I think this weekend you returned to quite a different campus than the year 1950 was mentioned. That was the year Dietrich Hall was built. Actually, it was built 1949, 1950. And I think as you walk around campus, you'll notice that even Dietrich Hall isn't what it used to be. Now, you may think it's gotten better, it may not, but it's now Steinberg Dietrich Hall. And we've added a West Wing addition to it in the last couple of years to create more space for classrooms and conference rooms and faculty offices as we continue to get larger. And you also attended Wharton at a time really of what was then incredible growth that continued from that point on. If we go back to 1964, there were only 271 MBAs. Incidentally, if you look at the total market for MBAs, it's about 100,000 a year. Undergrad is actually a lot bigger. Undergraduate business is about 250,000 a year. And undergraduate business and economics are like 50% of all college majors, which may be too many, you know. But all the mommies and daddies say, hey, we want our kid to go into a field where they're going to get a job, right? Which seems to be the concern that mommies and daddies have these days. So indeed, undergraduate business is a thriving part of our total experience here. And as you well recognize, Wharton has a tremendous advantage there because our competitors, for the most part, do not have undergraduate business. You know, we look at Harvard and Stanford and Yale, Princeton, Northwestern, you know, some of the major schools you might think of, they don't have undergraduate business schools. Now, they may be competing against us by saying, oh, we have economics, and we have mathematics, and it looks just like a business degree, but I think it is just a wonderful, wonderful advantage that Wharton has had for 133 years, that we are indeed the leading business school, and you know, that's rarely questioned. So over the years, MBAs have grown, and undergrad has also grown up to this 250,000 number. You may also have been at Wharton at a time when, if we think about faculty, when, we just had a discussion about a couple of members of faculty, remembering Don Blanchard, for example, as one person, but Erwin Friend was here in finance group, and he was a very influential professor because of groundbreaking work on mutual funds. And I'm not saying he created the index fund industry, but he was an important part of research which then led to the vanguards of the world getting into index funds as a way of doing business. Also,
in the last few years, and maybe when you were here, we created the Leonard Davis Institute of Health Economics, which combines Wharton with medicine.
Thank you for being here. Is there any other members of your class here?
I can't see.
Let's get a photo.
Well, I'd like to
Ready? One,
recognize
two, one, two.
a couple of other people here. I know Helen, you're here. If you were an adjunct professor, you
Help yourself. I heard they only know me in these streets. What they want.